better than nothing.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Squat Cobbler. This is our third episode, which officially makes this a trilogy. I'm pretty sure that puts us on the same level as Lord of the Rings and the good Star Wars movies. I am Mike Belinsky. You can find me at OfficialPagan on Twitter.
And hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Toole at KELLYTHUL on Twitter.
And I'm the surprise guest Mel at Karmic9 on Twitter.
And we're super excited to have Mel with us. Have all kinds of fun updates for everybody. Things have moved along here. The super exciting news is Nurture and Support is coming back. We're going to get back in the swing of things there. So Mel and I will be wreaking havoc with that. We'll likely start to reduce the frequency of Nurture and Support to around twice a month. So kind of an every other week deal, which, much to the delight of the Squatties out there, means that Squat Cobbler will expand beyond a trilogy and get to a quadology and many, many things beyond. How's that sound like a plan, Mel?
Do I have to be a squatty?
I would actually love it because I know that you make things. Can you make us sweaters that say Squatty on them, like Christmas sweaters?
Squatty. I will have to play around with that pattern.
He was the unknown reindeer. There was Dancer and Prancer, and they never mentioned Squatty, but Squatty was the coolest reindeer.
He's been written out.
And you have to understand why. It is a children's holiday.
Well, you know what? I really think Squat Cobbler is a family-oriented show.
I haven't heard that, but
Maybe a Manson family-oriented show, but
It's a perspective thing.
depends on how old your family is.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Kelly, would you let your kids listen to Squat Cobbler?
no. No, I wouldn't. Absolutely.
You didn't even think about that. That was just an instinctive no.
I think that's unwise.
This
I
doesn't
will-
exist.
See, we're giving people choices. We're going to be providing content, and if you would like your children to listen to Nurture and Support for recommendations, that'll be available to them, and then they can rest for a couple weeks before.
Well, I don't know. Wasn't there a couple of explicit tagged episodes of Nurture and Support? I think mostly because of Mel's potty mouth.
It was due to Mel.
Yeah.
I believe, if we check the record, any explicit marking had to do with material that Mel brought to the table.
That's right. Because I don't have kids, y'all.
You're like, I didn't make that poor life decision, guys.
That's right.
But in fairness, I don't believe there's ever been an episode of Nurture and Support that required the amount of editing time and reflection as Squat Cobbler #1. So
The soul searching that was involved to see
yes.
how far into. Well, I mean, on editing and reflection, Christian and I will have you as guest on our show too. So
Yeah. I gotta imagine the editing's lighter for that. If I'm
Yeah,
gonna
we
guess.
don't. Yeah, things just kind of fly. Like all of it. All of it pretty much stays.
Probably should mention that a little bit, Mike, before we kind of get rolling. So tell us a little bit more about this Christian Mike production.
Sure. So as you guys might know if you've listened to Squat Cobbler, Christian is the bass player of the band Psychotica, who is my favorite band, and he's also now the guitar player of my band, Pagan. And he and I have been friends for a long time, and he's been talking about doing a podcast. And when we had him on Squat Cobbler, that really inspired him to finally make the jump and start doing this podcast. So I'm co-hosting that show with him. It is called Social Sins, and there is a site up at socialsins.net. And we are actually working on a book that accompanies it called The Social Sins Guide to Parenting.
Nice.
I can hardly wait to read that.
So I just wrote a new segment for the book called The World's Greatest Uncle, It's Not Just a Mug.
That's not going to be like a pop-up book or anything, right? Just
You never know. It's still in the developmental stages, so
Pop-up books are awesome.
they really are.
They can be scary too.
So, Mike, you're captain of the squat today, so you can kind of set up the rotation on recommendations and guide us along.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I take my duties as squat captain very seriously. So I don't want to let you guys down with this, and I am going to break the trend that I set in the first 2 episodes of this and not recommend a movie soundtrack, but instead, it's still going to be an album though. I'm going to recommend the album Gensho, which is a collaborative effort from Boris and Merzbow. Merzbow is a noise artist who is really influential on Pagan. Boris is another Japanese act as well. Very different sound than Merzbow's. They've done collaborative projects together before. But what's really cool about this is it's actually 2 standalone albums that are packaged together that you can actually overlay yourself combined will make new versions of the songs. What Boris did for their half of the album is re-record some of their better-known songs in stripped-down versions. And then Merzbow went in and made a standalone noise, sort of industrial noise record that also lines up with the Boris songs. So if you play them simultaneously, you can actually adjust the levels yourself as to how much noise and industrial elements are within the songs. So you can take them as two separate albums or combine them, and really, once you start combining them, you can adjust the levels and have really different experiences with the songs anytime that you listen to it. Sometimes you could make it heavier if that's the mood what you're in for. You can turn the Merzbow part up much higher, and vice versa. So it's really kind of a cool concept. It's on vinyl and CD. Obviously, it's a little bit more cumbersome probably for some of the listeners to handle the vinyl if you intend on mixing them together, because you would need multiple record players, obviously. Whereas with the CD, you could just import them and play the files at the same time and adjust the volume that way.
Wow.
That's cool. How many tracks? I mean, is it? Because I was just kind of wondering too. Then with like the shuffle on a CD, are they single tracks or are they?
So they are individual tracks. I have the album in front of me right now. There is 9 tracks on the Boris side, and there is 4 tracks on the Merzbow side. But the 4 tracks on the Merzbow side are recorded and planned out in a way that they go over a couple of tracks at a time. But what's cool about it, like I said, is not only do they match up when you play them together, but you can listen to them as completely standalone albums, which I've done numerous times, like in the office when I'll just have an iPod with me. I'll just play mostly just the Boris side of the album. And I love listening to that as a standalone album. And then when I'm home, because I have the tracks already imported, I'll turn the Merzbow part up really high and listen to it. And it really is a very different listening experience, because the Boris side on its own is very stripped down and sort of subtle in parts. And then you can hear those same songs again later as very heavy, noisy, industrial tracks.
So where does one go to purchase these albums, Michael?
It's pretty widely available. So you can get it on you can get it on iTunes or Amazon or any of that stuff. And like I said, it is available on vinyl, but if you intend on mixing it, you would need multiple turntables to make that work.
Yeah, I think I gotta go the CD route.
Yeah, normally I never recommend CDs. I would always recommend the vinyl over it, but just in this instance, obviously, you're going to want to try the interactive element to it. It is easier with CD.
So what software would you'd have to have 2 different MP3 players on your computer playing at the same time to do that, right?
Correct. You could do that, or you can get any kind of basic audio mixing software and just import the 2 tracks at the same time. I like playing it with it in the audio mixing software that I have, because then I can really get in and adjust the levels as a track is playing. So I can mess around with it and get really different sounds each time that I play it.
Yeah, I was just thinking for normal people who don't have that kind of stuff, how they would have to do it, because that would be a question my mother would ask me. How am I supposed to play 2 of these at the same time?
And this is definitely an album your mother would definitely be interested in. You should recommend it to her. You really should go home and say like, "Hey, Mom, I know you were like, I need some really great experimental Japanese music to listen to tonight. I have the perfect recommendation for you."
And, we've tried to keep it quiet because we didn't want to hurt Mel's feelings, but Mel's mom, major Squatty, huge Squat Cobbler fan. Huge.
I'm pretty certain my mother has never heard that term.
I'm almost positive the exact wording in the email was like, "Finally, a show I can relate to." Yep. Something along those lines.
That would be true.
What mixing software do you use, Mike?
So I actually imported into the same software that I use to mix all of the pagan songs, which is a German software called Magix, Magix, and that's what I use for all of the pagan stuff. We record using different programs because we record predominantly in 2 different studios, and then I mix everything here using the Magix software.
Sounds very complicated to me.
Past recommendation of Nurture and Support, Brian Eno, when he gave you a diagram on the back end and say, okay, here's how you need to set everything up to like fully enjoy. It's the same. So
it's a similar thing, but it's a little bit more interactive because it's giving you the option of how distorted and heavy you want to hear the songs. Or you can just listen, like I said, you can listen to them as standalone albums. And that's the part to me that's really cool, is that they really do work separately as well as they do together. So, Kelly, what is your recommendation for us this week?
So my recommendation, and I will argue it's a quasi-original recommendation, although with Mel as our guest, she'll go, I thought maybe you kind of sort of recommended this before. I think not.
If you have to preface it, I think if you have to preface it as quasi-original, it's already being called into question.
I think, yeah. So I'm conflicted, but I'm still going to recommend it because I've established a new relationship with this. So it's Bald Move. These are two gentlemen that podcast a lot. Where they came up before in Nurture and Support is that they have been doing a podcast related to The Walking Dead. They'd also done podcasts for Breaking Bad. It's Jim and Aaron. And then over the time of listening to them, I tremendously enjoy their stuff. Over as I started listening to them, eventually they came to the conclusion to say, you know what? We're going to quit our jobs and become full-time podcasters as our means of living. This is all they do right now is Bald Move, and this is their source of income, and this is how they go. So you can join Bald Move, the Bald Move Club, for the low price of $1 a month. So for $12, you become a member of the Bald Move Club, and you gain access to all of their premium content. Now, there's a ton of free stuff. If you don't want to do that, you can still enjoy a lot of the stuff that they do. But with the Bald Move Club, which would be my recommendation, a truly unique and first-time recommendation, the Bald Move Club, I'd like to point out, you gain access to live recordings of the podcast, lunch with Jim and Aaron, where they just basically get together once a week and kind of chat, and a number of other kind of premium content. They do a lot of stuff on Twitch. They'll go in and play like the Walking Dead games, and they play the games the way I like to play the games, which is, if you're a character, make the worst decisions, the bad decisions, the most troublesome decisions in the process, and they play that all the way through that way.
That's how I play real life.
Yeah, so there you go. It's the same process. So there's tons of Twitch content out there, YouTube content, all of their podcasts. It's a bit of a network. They have a couple other people involved too. Mel, they do a Penny Dreadful podcast, so that might be one you could be pretty interested in. I enjoy them. They're fun to listen to. Aaron, I love him. He's a great guy. I think probably the reason I like him the most is that I think we all are aware that on occasion I have a little problem with diction, pronunciation, getting words strung together correctly. He's a lot worse than me. And so it feels good to me, the last name Rodriguez. Major problem for him. It comes out many different flavors.
Phonics is hard, yo.
Yeah, it is. What I loved here recently is they've gone through. So they're big in Game of Thrones, Walking Dead. These are the main podcasts I listen to it. So with the Game of Thrones stuff going on right now, I'm kind of eating it up, and I am now an official Bald Move Club member and can get all the fun content. So spoiler. If you're listening to any of the Squatties out there listening who don't want to get spoiled on Game of Thrones, you may want to skip over the next minute or so of the podcast here.
Everybody died.
Yeah, there you go. That's pretty much it. Particularly the Lannisters. The Lannisters have not had a good run. So again, spoiler folks, so jump off if you don't want to hear this stuff. But over the period of time, Joffrey, Tywin, and Marcella all kind of leave. And as each of them passed away, there was a shot of them with the stones over their eyes, oval-shaped stones with an eye painted on them, sitting over the corpse's eyes. You don't have to be a member, actually, of Club Bald Move to do this, but if you can go to their site, they came up with these sunglasses. They're gold sunglasses, which is what you want for the Lannisters, is a gold set of sunglasses. And then it's got basically the graphic of those eyes painted on there, and it's silk screened on with the little dots in it, so it's a solid image when you look at it, but you can see through it fine. And they just recently re-offered those, like, we made these, we didn't know if people would be interested, and it just kind of like sold out in a second. So they're putting more out there. So you could get Lannister Deadeye Stones, available on baldmove.com. You can watch them do the live recordings. You can commission podcasts. So if there's a particular movie you want them to talk about or all those types of things, you can kind of go ahead and do that. I really enjoy listening to them. They're fun guys to listen to.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you happen to know offhand what it entails to commission a podcast for them?
In terms of the dollar amount?
I guess, yeah. Dollar amount and logistically, like, what do they have requirements on what the podcast, or could it be anything?
So is this an evil bong question?
No, it's not an evil bond. It was just more like we should commission them to do a podcast about us.
I think we could do that. I totally think we could do that. I think it varies, and I'll have to go back and look at the price. So I think it is financially attainable for us. I don't think it's going to break the bank by any stretch of the imagination. But I like it. So what would we commission? Are we commissioning Squat Cobbler? Are we commissioning Nurture and Support?
I don't know. I guess that's you and Mel have to discuss that amongst yourselves. You're the parents of this fine institution. The birth givers? That sounds creepy.
It
does a little bit. They have typically done it on TV shows and movies, so I don't think they've ever commissioned a podcast about a podcast. But, as a card-carrying member of Club Bald Move, I certainly feel emboldened to make that request. And I'll explore that further.
You paid your $12, damn it.
That's right. And you don't, if you chose, that's the minimum. You could choose to pay $24 or whatever you want to do, but their minimum's $1 a month. So that's what I went with initially, just to start off with. I really enjoy their stuff. What I like particularly about like Walking Dead is that they're not pure fanboys, just to kind of like root it on. They talk about the things they like. They talk about the things they don't like. In fact, they probably skew a little bit towards more critical. They're huge Game of Thrones fans, but still, if there's something that's not quite working right, they have a good kind of conversation on it. They interact really well. They're really fun. I managed to, one of the times when they were doing one of their playthroughs of the Walking Dead games, kind of join them during a live session and offer some things up. And they're very interactive. They were a little mean to me during that podcast. Because
they'll regret that when we commission a podcast.
Mean in a fun way. So it's all good stuff. But it really is. I have really enjoyed listening to them. They're tuned into things like Better Call Saul. They do a Better Cast Saul podcast as well. It's really, really good. I like their angles, and it's interesting for Game of Thrones because Aaron has read all the books and Jim has not. So you get kind of that combination of a couple different points of view. And for the Game of Thrones, they have a regular podcast and then a spoiler podcast they go into with all the different book knowledge and all those types of things, which is getting kind of different where we're at now that kind of the show's caught up to the books, and so we're getting into new territory. But it's really fun to listen to. They're good folks. They're trying to make a living doing podcasting, so any support we could throw their way is good. I enjoy their content, so I'd recommend Club Bald Move.
So I have a question. How are they delivering their premium content? Is it through Twitch, or are they doing something where on a website where that's where their content is? Or I know some people have apps for that.
So currently it's through the website. So you go to baldmove.com and you can create an account and log in and kind of create the subscription, which opens up the additional content. So there's content unsubscribed. If you're not a member at all, you can get all the Game of Thrones podcasts. You can get all those types of things. You can't get the live recording, but you'll get it when they release it from there. So it's through a website. You go in, you create your account, you log in, and by logging in, you get access to Lunch with Jim and Aaron. You get access to the live broadcast, to some of the exclusive Twitch content. They put some of it out on YouTube as well. So it's mostly through a website is their mechanics today.
Okay.
And I think the three of us should continue to look at these gentlemen closer because maybe we can all make a living podcasting.
Maybe we need to start a Twitter poll on, would you pay for this?
Well, all right, so then here's a good question that I would like to pose to both of you. So if there is a paid version of Nurture and Support, what would you guys offer as premium content?
I
think Mel's going to answer that.
I don't know. We could make Kelly swear.
I think that would be good. I mean, I've definitely heard it before, but you've never done it on a show?
Not a lot. Not a ton.
Me neither. Wink.
Yeah. Not at all. Yeah, I think so. I think the live recording could be premium content from there.
Have you guys ever considered doing like a live audience podcast?
You mean like somebody in the room?
Yeah, like going somewhere and doing the podcast in front of people.
Oh, no, we live so far apart. I'm in Texas, y'all.
We're trying to secede
from the union again, apparently. There's gonna be
I didn't know you guys stopped seceding from the union.
Apparently it's actually something they're going to talk about at the Republican convention here this week. Yeah.
So I
Which I
know we don't
assume
enter
would be
politics often on these shows, but I will say, given the choices available to us, Succession has become a lot more appealing to me than ever
like that
before.
doesn't sound as crazy as it used to.
No, it seems like a very reasonable choice at this point in time.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work. We're a big state. We're not capable of handling ourselves. Or I would still have to go to Canada. Here's a secondary recommendation if y'all haven't heard about Maple Match. Oh, y'all haven't heard about Maple Match?
No.
Tell me about this.
Okay.
Is
Just
this a
blurb.
syrup-related recommendation?
No, actually, it's a dating site that has sprung up to match Americans who are contemplating leaving this country because of the upcoming election. So to hook up single Americans with single Canadians so that it make it easier for us to become Canadian citizens when we run away from this country. So that's all I know about it. I haven't actually looked at it.
So it's an awesome idea, but I feel like there's two missed opportunities here. One, I would have called it Kelly, cover your ears. Fuck your way to freedom. That seems like the first missed opportunity. The second is, if you're going to call it Maple Match, syrup has to be involved, like Kelly said.
There may be. I have not looked at the
Or maybe
site,
that's,
but
you think like when you become a Canadian citizen, that's part of like the welcome package,
probably.
like a hockey stick and a huge vat of syrup.
The saddest part is the article I read about it. There were like 5 times as many Americans that had signed up for this site as Canadians willing to take us.
Well, I mean, they don't have to go anywhere. So, and I'm sure that there's plenty of attractive potential partners in Canada.
Right, and they don't want us. So
yeah.
they're gonna, like I said, they're gonna build a wall to keep us out.
So Mel, imagine you're a single lady in Canada. I mean, the reason that we want to leave is because we did this to ourselves. So
right,
why would you? Yeah, what would be the enticing part of you to find a partner from here?
None whatsoever. It would have to be pure charity.
It's a pity. It's a pity thing.
It is. It would be absolute pity. Here, we'll give y'all a home. Just come
See,
here.
that doesn't sound as good as pity. Fuck your way to freedom doesn't work as well.
No.
I'd like to thank Mike for keeping Squat Cobbler in the explicit category on iTunes.
I do what I can. We skipped the second one. We didn't say anything in the second one.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, it was surprisingly under control. Yeah, I would have just gone with puck.com. Is what I would have gone with.
All right, so you brought up something really, and we're going to really drive home the explicit point now. So,
oh, great.
I feel like, now that you said like puck.com or something like that, I just realized that part of the problem with Fuck Your Way to Freedom as a name is half of the people in America couldn't spell it. Like if it was fuckyourwaytofreedom.com, so many people wouldn't find that unless they have a good search engine. So
yeah.
So puck works. Nice.
Yeah.
4-letter word. There you go.
Yep. So is it my turn?
I think you snuck in like a bonus recommendation.
Okay.
How very
you've taken over Squat Cobbler.
That was just a heads up for any of the other singles out there who have threatened to leave the country. Here might be our only opportunity. So actually, like Kelly's recommendation being somewhat familiar to me, this might be somewhat familiar to Kelly because this was a recommendation I tried to give when my internet was not working and it kept cutting out. So he really never heard all of it, I don't believe, because we had a very, very bad connection. So this is a video game called Firewatch, and it's by a company called Campo Santo. Firewatch is, unlike a lot of my recommendations, available not only on PC through Steam, but it's also playable on PlayStation 4. This is kind of a combination of some of my favorite things here. It's a video game that is very much like a book. It's not a shoot 'em up, not an RPG. They like to put it in a category called a walking simulator. You play as a character named Henry, and you are escaping some serious life problems by spending the summer in Wyoming as a fire watch. What that means is you have a big fire tower. You're all by yourself. You sit in this fire tower for months looking for smoke to report a fire to. Henry's only other human contact is with his supervisor, Delilah, who is in another fire tower. He never actually meets her. She's just a voice on his walkie-talkie. So the way the game plays is you spend the first few minutes of it kind of setting up Henry's backstory. Spoiler, he goes through a tragedy, which is what drives him out to the wilderness to spend some time alone. And this is a very suspenseful story that is actually very beautiful. We've talked about on Nurture and Support some other games that were very art-oriented. This is a beautiful game. The lighting effects in this forest that you're going through, because it's mainly about exploration. Henry can walk all through this forest, pick things up. There's a few very easy puzzlers going on throughout the game. It is mostly about the story that's being told. It's just beautiful. The trees and the forest are so beautifully rendered, and the lighting effects, because you go through a day-night cycle. It's in not quite real time, but in game time. And it's just really, really nice. Eventually, in the game, you'll find a camera, and you can take snapshots with the camera. And then the cool thing kind of at the end of the game, as you watch the credits roll, it will pop up the actual snapshots that you took in the game, which was a nice little touch. But the story itself is really it's kind of a moving, emotional story, but it's very suspenseful. Henry is experiencing some weirdness out there in the wilderness by himself, and you don't quite know, given what he's been through, if he's cracking up or if something is really going on, and there might possibly be someone out there who's sort of stalking him. Things go missing from his fire tower. His fire tower gets broken into, but he's all by himself. So you don't know if these things really happen or if he might be really losing it. So it's very suspenseful. It's a very moving game. The story is. It's sort of like one of those choose your own adventure type books. I don't know if y'all read those when you were young. I don't think they're as popular nowadays as they used to be, but I read quite a few of them.
I absolutely love choose your own adventure books.
Good. Well, this reads a lot like that. You're given choices. Something comes up, and you're given several choices of what you can make, dialogue options or just things that you can do, and those determine the next step in the game and all of that. There's no shooting. You're not really fighting anything for your life. There are a few puzzles to figure out, but they're not really all that difficult. It's basically just to move the story along. And the story does a good job of jumping you ahead, of letting you feel the loneliness that Henry's going through, but he needs this time because of, I don't want to spoil what the tragedy is, there are plenty of places out online that you can find out all the details, but the story changes slightly depending on how you choose to play it. It's just an experience. It really does a good job of bringing through the suspense and the emotional overtones that are going on. He is forming a relationship with this Delilah voice on this walkie-talkie, kind of an emotional dependency on this, but he doesn't really know if he's cracking up or if she's even being honest with him, or if there is somebody out to get him or someone out there in the wilderness trying to get both of them. And you don't really know quite what's going on. And the story does a really good job of leading you through it to find out to solve the ultimate mystery. So there's a lot of exploration going on. It's a good, satisfying story. And one of the big things is it's not going to take you very long to play through. The whole game only takes 4 to 6 hours, depending on how much time you're going to put into just wandering around in the wilderness to explore all the different areas, because there's stuff available for you to go do that's not necessary to the story. And it's well worth wandering around to find all of those things. It's just really cool. I suggest everybody check it out because I really enjoyed it. It's not a high-stress game. You can play it at your own pace. You don't have to worry about making a wrong move that's going to destroy everything and you're going to die a horrible death. You could maybe be attacked by something, but you never know. You're probably not going to die because then the story wouldn't really get to the end. So you're pretty safe most of the time, but there are some things that are going to happen to the character that might be a little shocking. It's a good game, Firewatch. It's unfortunately, by the time any of you hear this, it won't still be on sale. It's currently on sale for $13.99 on Steam, but its regular price is only $19.99, and it's a beautiful game. So.
Well, luckily, I have the benefit of hearing you say this right now, and I can just go on Steam and buy it.
Right,
So
because the sale is going to end tomorrow, I think.
Nice. So that's a tonight purchase for me.
Those listening, too late. But
Sorry.
I don't know how you could ever trust anyone named Delilah, though.
I had problems with that. I was like, Delilah? Okay. But then
That's sketchy.
his name is Henry, too. So,
Henry seems trustworthy to me. I don't know.
yeah, the game actually, I believe, is set in 1989. So that's how they get away from a lot of the technological advancements that we would have today. The game is actually set in 1989. I meant to mention that.
So it's not going to have the gaping plot holes that Fear the Walking Dead did.
I didn't watch Fear the Walking Dead, so.
You're better off.
You are. Although, I mean, they are getting a little better, but you're still probably better off.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, there's no cell phones. His only contact with the outside world is the walkie-talkie and Delilah. It's good. I really enjoyed the story, so it was as much a visual art form as it was actually going through a story. I've often wondered if it started out as a short story that someone decided would be a full game or not, but I don't really know the answer to that. So, it's good. And it's short. So you can actually finish it, and that's a good feeling to actually play through an entire game and actually get to finish it, because it's only going to take you a few hours instead of, if you're like me, on a lot of those big games like Fallout and all of that, I have to do everything. I have to do every quest, so it takes me forever to finish those games, because I'm always afraid I'm going to miss out on something cool.
Well, that's like whenever I'm trying to help Kelly hide a body, I try and think of it as LARPing. And this way, it's a game. I have a goal that I have to try and accomplish, not accessory to murder. I'm LARPing.
LARPing is good.
Corpsing. I don't know what you call it. But yeah, it's nice to hear the full recommendation, Mel.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
That last time we tried that one, it was very, very irritating. I was getting very, very angry at my internet.
I'm really excited because I think not only were those both great recommendations, these are both things I really want to do. I want to make these guys do a podcast about us.
I've got to. So as a card
game,
we got to do this. We got to figure. I will begin to explore options here and see what we can do. So, Squat Captain, are we going to do social media recommendations?
I forgot that I was the captain here. So Kelly, do you have a social media recommendation for us tonight?
I do.
Wait a minute. If I'm Squat Captain, just really let me get off on a little bit of a tangent here. If I'm Squat Captain, are you my squat kick?
Cringe.
All
right, Squat Kick, take it away with that social media recommendation.
Okay, I will.
Boy Squat.
So first of all, I'd like to mention to Mel, there's a whole new batch of Houston Texan cheerleaders who are now on Twitter as they've gone through their new cycle to go forward. So I'll just kind of mention that as an aside, that there's more Houston Texan cheerleaders out there on Twitter. But my recommendation for this week is science gifts. Shockingly enough, a bunch of gifs about science and interesting things you can learn in GIF format. And the Twitter handle is @learnthings. So learn_things. LEARN_things. So science gifts is my social media recommendation. Beyond alerting Mel to there's many new Houston, Texas cheerleaders out there.
You know, the last batch unfollowed me.
Yeah, I know. Well, not all of them, right? Just a couple?
No, not all of them. Not all of them.
Couple malcontents.
It's possible I don't get along with blondes. I don't know. I never said anything bad to them.
No.
I guess I'm just not one of those little cheery, happy people, though. So one of them felt it was necessary to unfollow me.
Not cool.
That's okay. I'm not bitter.
That's cool. I would never unfollow you, Mel.
Thank you. You're darker than I am.
What?
So, yeah, I think so. I think you're a little more hardcore.
You know what? I try and bring, when we did those first 2 episodes of Squat Cobbler, I was trying to bring the positive influence to Kelly. Because I felt like without you there, he was just going to traverse the darkest corners of his soul, and he did. Especially on episode 1.
Yeah. I'm glad you were there to buoy him up.
Yeah, I mean, somebody had to keep this guy in line.
Yeah, I know. Oh, well, shockingly to no one, I don't have a social media today. Sorry. I'll do better next time.
Okay, so I do have a social media recommendation, and I recommend that you go on Twitter and follow Carl Kevorkian. He is a rapper that Kelly and I both know that we have done shows with in the past, and Carl and I just did a song together that's out now on YouTube, so you should go listen to that too. So it's a secret plug hidden in the form of a social media recommendation.
And I like Carl. Carl seems like he's a very cool guy, but every opportunity there is for Carl to have my back in a conversation, he has consistently not had my back. So I'd like to point that out. But he's a cool dude, so that's a great recommendation. Good guy.
All right, well, I guess this wraps up the initial trilogy of Squat Cobbler. And as Kelly said, I guess we're going to be doing some more of these, so we'll ruin it with a prequel trilogy, and then we'll try and win you all back with the next set of episodes after that. Well, have a good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.